Well, thank you everyone for being here today and welcome to another episode of our Global Employability Expert Series. I'm very excited to be here today. Probably if you've come to this webinar, you already know me. My name is Mirta Aguirre. I am the head of employability at Virtual Internships. And today, I'm going to be the speaker of the session, okay? I wanted to share this very interesting topic that is very important to me, and I thought this could be great for you to engage with because this is a really interesting and important topic. And today we're going to discuss how we can create a leadership profile and how we can start thinking about this right when we are finishing at university or when we're doing our internship or we're taking our first professional steps. So I will remind you how our webinar works, which is that we are recording this session so you can watch it later on. If you want to share it with someone else, you can, or you want to rewatch it. We have a YouTube channel where you can subscribe and watch our previous webinars. We have many different webinars, many different interesting content that you can find there because we upload our recordings there, okay? You can ask questions during the webinar. You have the Q&A box below, and then you can type your question. And if you have any specific question about your program, then you can reach out to your IEM, which is a person who has been emailing you and contacting you all this time, okay? So thank you very much for being here. I'm going to introduce myself. So my name is, as you already know, I've mentioned Mirta Aguirre. I'm the head of employability, and I'm an expert in mentoring people, especially recent graduates, to reach their full potential and achieve their goals, okay? I have an extensive leadership record myself. I have created an international career in the areas of education and coaching. I have won different scholarships, and I'm an expert in connecting people. And so I wanted to share what I learned through my journey with you, because these are things that I could have liked to know when I was your age, okay? So the idea is to explore today how to create a leadership profile since your university or your internship experience, okay? Creating a leadership profile takes time, and the best moment to start doing it is now, okay? Being able to stand out and showcase your leadership potential requires a series of skills and attitudes that you can develop. So in this webinar, I will share some learnings that I gained along the way and how you can start creating your leadership profile, okay? If you have any comments or questions, you can just ask them during the presentation, in the Q&A or the chat as well, okay? So, okay, when we think about leadership, right, there are many definitions of leadership, different kinds of leadership, but mainly overall, when we talk about a leader, is someone who can see how things can be improved and who can gather people to move towards that vision, right? A leader usually has a vision or something they want to achieve, and they can gather people and gather people towards that goal. And usually leaders are very motivated and make positive impact on the people around them. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about my path, and let's start a little bit about who I am. What about me? Well, my family said that I'm more like Lisa Simpsons, which I think it's quite true. When I was at school, I always was very curious. I wanted to learn. I wanted to know more about the world, different cultures. And I started learning languages. I started learning English, and then I continued with Portuguese, and then French, and then German. And I always liked learning languages a lot. But I was not sure what I wanted to do at university. So I thought of law, political science, and finally I decided to study international studies. But when I finished university, I was a bit lost. I was like, okay, what do I want to do after university? How do I want my professional career to be? Like, I was really not sure. Okay, so what I'm going to share is a brief story of how I managed to do many things. And then I realized, okay, how did I do this, right? Because at the moment I was not really sure about, I was not conscious about how I did it, okay? So my journey, so I finished university, international studies, and I went to France to teach Spanish thanks to a program of the French embassy. And then I taught Spanish. I realized I really like teaching and languages. And then a couple of years later, I participated in a leadership program in Brazil where we reflected about what is leadership, what we want to do with our lives, what our goals are. And then I started saying, okay, I really want to keep on studying because I love learning, right? I wasn't sure where that could lead me, but I was sure that I wanted to keep on learning. So I started applying to different universities and I got accepted to many different universities in Switzerland, in France, in Hungary. And I finally decided myself to do a scholarship in the UK, in the United Kingdom. I won this very prestigious scholarship, which is called Chevening Scholarship. And this is actually a leadership scholarship, right? They look for people who are really committed in working towards making an impact in society. So I was lucky to be accepted at this scholarship, and I did a master's in education and international development at the Institute of Education in London. That was a huge experience. I met so many interesting people, and I met so many different young people with the potential to be leaders, right? So leadership is something that is really present in my life because I work with other young, especially young people, right? And young leaders. And so then I did a very also competitive traineeship in the European Commission, which is like the executive body of the European Union. And I worked in different organizations, NGOs, government, international organizations. I lived in France, in Belgium, England, Dominican Republic, in the Caribbean, and now I'm in Argentina, my country. So after all this, when I look back to my younger self and I said, okay, how did I manage to do all this, right? And at the moment, I didn't know, I wasn't conscious of what I was doing. So now that I have already some couple of years more, when I look back and I identify what I did, I said, okay, I think that there are some things that I did that helped me and that you can do to start building this leadership path. Okay. So the one key message I want to share with you is like, we all can start identifying achievements and projects that we can showcase and that start building our leadership profile. Okay. And we can start doing this from university and from your own very internship right now. Okay. And how can we do this? Well, we can reflect on projects we are working on. We can reflect on the achievements, right? Sometimes we work on a project and our supervisor, our boss, or even someone at university says, hey, this is really good. Thanks for your contribution, right? And so we need to start reflecting on what things I'm doing, what projects, what tasks that make me stand out, what achievements I have, and then start gathering all these because it is important to put this in our CVs, right? To show this in our resumes. So when we later on want to apply for a scholarship or a job, then the recruiters or the people who are selecting different candidates, they can see that. So remember to start thinking in your internship program right now, and what are those projects and achievements that you have or you have already because you have participated in university, perhaps at a science project, or you received a mention for writing a piece of really interesting content. So be mindful and start doing this. So the second thing that is super essential for leadership is being able to work with other people, teamwork, okay? Because as we said, leaders are people who can really gather other people, who can say, hey, sometimes they don't even need to say, join me, right? People start gathering around this person and they can work with others. So this is really important. You can start working with other people and practicing what it is to be a team player right from your internship. And when we say what is to work, what do we mean by work out with other people? Work with other people. Basically, we're talking about connecting, right? Reach out to your colleagues and teammates. Do you have to organize your weekly meeting? Well, then it can be you, the person who says, hey, let's meet. Let's pick a day and time. Be you the one who starts the Zoom, right? The one who makes sure that everyone speaks, that everyone shares their opinions, take notes of what is discussed, and then you can send a follow-up email. Those things are really appreciated, especially in the workplace, right? Because that is a leadership example. You said, okay, guys, I have this. I'm going to take charge of this meeting. So you can start doing that right now. Also, if you have any doubts, okay, reach out to your supervisor, reach out to another colleague, ask. If you don't know something, always ask, okay? This is very important. We need to be proactive. Being proactive means not being passive, not just waiting, but being out there and said, okay, I need to solve this. And this is very important, right? When we want to solve something, what can we do? Okay, I have a task. I don't know how to do it. What can I try? Well, first of all, we know that nowadays we can Google everything, right? Google has almost all the answers for what we're looking for. So we can always try Googling first. We can then watch some YouTube webinars or tutorials that clarify what we're looking for. We can read forums, right? Many people probably have already had the same doubt we have, so we can go to forum and find the answer. We can think, brainstorm different solutions and alternatives, talk to other people, because being proactive is essential, right? Essential to a leader. A leader cannot just be passive and wait. We need to make things happen. So you can start practicing this very important skill from your internship experience. And of course, a very important quality for a leader is to be reliable. What does that mean? It means that you are going to say what you are going to do what you say, okay? If I say, oh, I will send you the project tomorrow, then I need to send that project tomorrow, right? I need to really be trustworthy. People need to trust me and say, okay, when Asma finishes the work, they will send it to us. So that is very important. Work in team, practice working with other people, be proactive, always try to find the solution first and be reliable. Okay, very important skills to have as a leader. And what is a leader if not someone who can communicate very effectively? Okay, probably you've seen, you can identify different people you admire, different leaders, and you can see that these people, they can communicate, right? They can speak, they can be really persuasive. And communication, like all of what I'm sharing today, can be developed, right? I teach public speaking myself at university. I'm passionate about communication. And sometimes people say, oh, but you are naturally a good speaker. And I'm like, no. I learned how to be a speaker, right? Because just because we can speak doesn't mean we can communicate properly, that we can make a nice presentation, that we can be persuasive. Those are skills that we can develop, we can learn, and we can train ourselves to improve. So in order to be a good communicator, one thing is always to ask, right? A good communicator can make really good and interesting questions. And if I have a doubt, then I just need to reach out to the person and ask for clarification. I can also always share my ideas in a respectful manner and my opinions. So be really pay attention to how you are communicating during your internship experience, because this can be a really good practice for you. And so when we think about communicating with others, it's very important to be clear, okay? And practice assertive communication. Perhaps you have heard this concept, assertive communication. Um, what it means is when we talk about assertiveness, usually we have different ways of communicating. Some people may be a little bit more aggressive, or when you are not feeling well about something, or you're uncomfortable and then you want to say something but you are so emotionally loaded, right? You have all these feelings inside of you, and then you say something and you perhaps don't say the best way, right? You said, oh, I didn't like what happened because this was not good because of this and that. And perhaps people find this a little bit like, oh, I understand what you're saying, but the way you're saying it is not the best, right? And when we are in this more of a aggressive way, our communication is not the best, because people will say, hey, the way you're talking, I don't really like it. Sometimes we may just be passive and say, oh, I'm not gonna ask, I'm not gonna propose this idea because people won't like it, so I would just not do anything. Has this ever happened to you, like that you said, mm, I don't know, people may think that my ideas are not good, so I would just don't say anything. And if we don't say anything, then of course nothing will change. We cannot share our thoughts and ideas. So being assertive means going the middle path. What does that mean? Well, making sure we are saying what we want to say in a respectful manner. Okay, if I didn't like what happened in a meeting, then I can just in a proper way say, I reflected, I thought that the meeting was really interesting. However, I did not feel so comfortable with what we discussed about this issue, and this is what I want to propose. Instead of just uh, having an outburst, oh, this meeting was horrible, I didn't like it. And instead of just not saying anything and then feeling, I didn't like what happened, we can find a middle way. That's being assertive. So practice being assertive, practice talking to your colleagues and your supervisor. And during your internship experience, you have the opportunity to practice professional communication, right? Professional communication means sending professional emails, writing specific pieces of documents. And one thing I suggest is that for your internship experience, take 5 minutes at the end of your internships and propose to your supervisor to meet and make a small presentation of what you did during this internship. That is a great way to practice. Okay, you can say, okay, during this internship, I was asked to contribute towards this project, and this is what I did. These are my results. If you can do that, then it's a nice, interesting experience and for you to practice, right? And also always practice. If you, there are many different opportunities to practice worldwide. There are different organizations like Toastmasters who organize meetings to give speeches, or there are many debate clubs where you can go and practice how to communicate and create nice presentations. Being a great communicator is essential to be a leader, and then you can start practicing this from now. Okay. Something really interesting that I discovered when I applied to all these different scholarships, I realized that the selection committee, something they were looking for was people who were engaged in their communities. Okay. People who are motivated by a cause, by something, and that want to make a difference. So reflect, how can you volunteer? What is something, what is a cause that, a cause or a problem that really interests you? Okay, I love education. I love citizenship. participation. I love debate. So I started volunteering myself in different organizations. And at the moment, I didn't know that this was something that could actually be a good thing, besides, of course, making a contribution to my community. But for recruiters and selection committees, this can be a really good thing because it shows how you can improve and how you can make an impact in society. Someone is asking me if there's an online Toastmaster. I'm not sure. We could definitely find out, but there are many different initiatives that do work online. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was. Probably there are some. So be mindful about how you can engage with your community and peers, and explore also online volunteering, because now there are many opportunities online. So if you start looking for causes that you like, that's a good way also to practice your leadership skills, right? And to give your time to someone else, to a cause, that is really fulfilling, right? When you say, oh, okay, I'm doing a really nice contribution, that is also good for ourselves, because we can see how our skills and talents and knowledge can help other people, right? So volunteer, that's something that is really important. Well, definitely learn languages, okay? I'm speaking English, you are speaking English as well. I believe that here, most of the people in this webinar, we don't speak English as our native language. So speaking English give us the opportunity to communicate with people from different cultures, different parts of the world, and really feeling comfortable speaking English and other languages is super important. So how can you improve, right? How can you improve your English or the language you are learning? Something I've discovered with time is like Instagram is super, super useful. When I grew up, there was no Instagram. I am more of a Facebook generation. And Facebook appeared when I was already a little bit older. So my younger years, there was no Facebook either. And now we have so many online opportunities, right? Find your different Instagram accounts. There are so many different accounts nowadays that give you the opportunity to follow people who teach the language, right? Who share really interesting content. So find different accounts. I am right now learning German, which is really, really difficult. And I follow many different people that share content on how to learn German, right? So you can follow people who teach languages in Instagram. You can download and find an online free course, right? There are many different apps like Babel, like Buzu, like Duolingo, right? Where we can practice the language. Also, we can always watch movies with the subtitles in the language we also want, and make sure we are receiving all this input, right? To be fluent. And if you have opportunities, join different language exchange groups. In the world, there are different organizations. You can also Google these. There are some organizations like Mundolingo, where people go to a bar or to a cafe and then discuss with people in different languages. Internations is a platform for people who live for expats. So you can join these kind of groups and then meet people from other cultures and countries, so you can practice the language. Being intercultural agile is very important. And what does this mean? It means something that you are already exploring during your internship, right? Perhaps you are working for a company that is not in your country, or you are working with people from other cultures, and being able to navigate all these intercultural differences is super important for a leader. Okay, so if you haven't started yet, grab your Instagram, find some people that can teach you the language, and start listening to different podcasts, even if you don't understand anything, but get yourself into the situation of being exposed to a different language. Then something super, super important, okay? Nurture your network. When we talk about networking, sometimes we are not sure what that is, right? What is networking? And when we talk about networking, we need to understand that networking is really about connecting with other people, okay? But how do we connect? Well, this connection needs to be a connection that adds value to the other person, right? And for that, it is very important that we are people who can communicate, of course, right? Because it's going to be challenging to network if we don't feel very comfortable talking to other people, if we are not really sure. So networking means having really interesting conversations with other people, understanding what they do, what you can offer. And even if we don't have yet a professional path, because I understand most of you are just doing a first internship, or this is perhaps your second work experience. So you said, okay, but I don't yet have a career, it doesn't matter, because as long as you can have an interesting conversation about what you're interested in, and that you can make the other person feel listened, and that if you can show interest in what the other person does, then the other person is going to feel, oh, I really liked talking to this person. This young man seemed very motivated and very eager to learn more about my field. So networking is about connecting with other people. And how can we do to connect with other people, right? So one thing is really going into different webinars or workshops. And nowadays we have this option of doing many, many things online, right? So if you identify a webinar that you like, for instance, even if you can not attend to the webinar, you can find a list of speakers, and then you can start being in contact with these people. And how can we be in contact with other people? Well, through LinkedIn. How many of you have a LinkedIn account? Can you write that in the chat? I'd like to know. Do you have a LinkedIn account? How do you, is your LinkedIn account? Yes, okay, excellent. So you do have a LinkedIn account. Wonderful, excellent. So LinkedIn is like this super network for professional connections, right? And it is really important to start creating a network, because like everything I'm sharing, this is a process that takes time, right? So the more conscious you are, and the more you say, okay, I'm going to start now. Now, of course, you're going to have just a small number of connections. But in the future, as you go by, then one day you said, oh, look how many connections I have. And so who we can add to our LinkedIn network? Well, this can be people we know from university, professors we know from university, university staff that we met, of course, these different speakers that we may find in a webinar. That we have the option to connect with people, or we can also follow people, right? Even if we don't know the person in person, or if we've never talked, we can follow them. And we can also follow companies, right? For instance, I'm interested in education and in coaching. So I follow different companies that work in my industry, that work in education, that work in coaching. And then I get to see all these different publications, different news that these companies share, and also different news that people also share. Now we know there are also kind of influencers in LinkedIn. Excellent. You're sharing your LinkedIn. I like that initiative. That's being very proactive. Yes. So definitely having your LinkedIn account is going to be a plus for your career. And remember to have this LinkedIn updated, which means usually you can have a picture of yourself. If you don't want to have a picture of yourself, perhaps you can have a picture of something that represents what you do or your interest. Let's say you are into translation. So perhaps you can, your picture can be, some kind of text or something that represents the area, the industry, the field you're in. Same thing, the picture, the banner picture LinkedIn has, use that to showcase a nice picture that sends an image, a vibe of what your industry or your interest is. Okay. And for your internship experience, reach out, connect with your other team members, with your supervisor, with other people in your company. Okay. Because this is going to be super interesting. And by the end of your internship, you can also ask your internship experience in your LinkedIn account. And you can even ask for a recommendation, perhaps with to another team member or your supervisor, and said, hey, do you think you can make a recommendation, and they can write something on your LinkedIn account? Or you can even, add the skills you have, and other team members can endorse them. That means that, for instance, in my LinkedIn profile, you can see that I said that I am good at teaching. And so some of my students, they have gone into my LinkedIn profile and they had endorsed this. They have said, okay, yeah, Mirta, she's really good at teaching. So you can do that yourself and endorse other people's skills and knowledge, and you can find that in LinkedIn. So it is really good to also be proactive. And one thing that is also very important when we think about networking is what we call informational interviews. This means, for instance, that you are going to have a small conversation, small or long, but at least a conversation with someone that you are that you really like what they do and that you want to know more. For instance, when I started learning about coaching and I didn't know much about it, I reached out to a professional coach, sent them an email, and said, hey, I saw your LinkedIn profile. What you do seems really interesting. I learning myself about coaching. I would love to know your path, how you created your coaching career, and I would love to have a small conversation with you to learn more about how you did it. And this person, she offered me a, a Zoom, because today we can do it over Zoom. So this is really easy, much easier than when we didn't have this option. And so we talked about how she created her coaching career. And I was not looking for a job, okay? An informational interview is not for you to ask for a job to the person, but is to understand what the person is doing and how they did it. And so you can learn from the experience from someone else who has already created this path that you want to build. So informational interviews are really interesting. And perhaps you can also have this with your supervisor during your internship experience. If your supervisor, let's say you studied computer science, and then your supervisor created a really interesting career in this field, you can have a small Zoom, a brief Zoom, and say, hey, tell me how you did it. I love to know more about your experience. And usually people like sharing, what they did, what they learned. So you can try. Worst case scenario, they say, no, I'm sorry, I cannot do it. That's okay, right? Best case scenario, they can share with you all their learning. So here you have a lot of interesting tips on how to start your networking from now. So you can all start doing this. And by the end of the webinar, I'm going to share my LinkedIn And if you want to share your LinkedIn account, you can do it as Yasser did in the chat, so we can stay connected, okay? So tip number 7. This is super, super important. This is a very important skill for any leader and for any person in general, okay? Develop your emotional intelligence skills, okay? And this, does anyone know what emotional intelligence is? Who can share something in the chat? What do you think when we talk about emotional intelligence? What do we mean by this? Who knows? What can you think of? We have 2 words, right? Emotion, intelligence. What do you think emotional intelligence is? Who can tell me in the chat? Someone? Do we have anyone? What do you think? When we talk about emotional intelligence? No one? How to handle balanced life and work productively? Good one. I think it's related to IQ in general. Interesting. Well, this is interesting. Being able to manage emotions. Yes, thank you. Exactly. So someone mentioned IQ. IQ is intelligent coefficient, right? Which means like it's a number that kind of tells you how intelligent you are based on some tests you do, tests that have to do with math and logical thinking and communication and verbal skills. And for many, many years, many people thought that your IQ, how intelligent you are, was very important. And it is very important. But what we have discovered, what people who have researched a lot about this have discovered is now we have the EQ, the emotional coefficient. And that means being emotional intelligent. What does that mean? Well, like you are correctly saying in the chat, well, we are human beings. We have a brain, so we can think and we can, we can process thoughts. And we are also animals in the sense that, of course, we have emotions, we have a body, right? And we have all these physical processes happening within ourselves. So we are a body and we have a mind. And of course, we also have emotions, right? Emotions are things, are feelings, right? It's something that happens in our body, right? When we are perhaps anger, when we are angry, right? Our body is tense. We feel our breathing changes, right? Emotions create a change in our body. The word emotion has the word motion in it, right? So it comes from Latin movere, which is to move. So an emotion moves us a little bit, right? And it affects our body. And it affects also our thinking, right? Because if we are angry, we cannot think that clearly, right? When we are angry, it's like, oh my God, it's like we are fixing just one thing. When we are relaxed, that's a good emotion, right? Well, they're not good or bad emotions, but emotions that limits our options and emotions that open opportunities, right? Because angry can be a really interesting emotion if we need to reach out and solve a situation, right? So emotions are not by themselves good or bad. They just have different ways in which they move us. So it is really important to be aware of our emotions, right? So being intelligent, emotionally intelligent being, recognizing that we have emotions because we are human beings, that we have all these things that happen within us, and that they have an effect on what we do, right? Because if I'm happy, probably I'm going to be smiling and I'm going to be saying, hi, hello, have a good day, right? And so this emotion will be a really good emotion to have when I'm with other people, right? Because people usually like to be with other people who are happy and they are in a good mood. So if I'm aware of the emotions I have and how I can manage them, that's being emotionally intelligent. And we can manage emotions, right? I can say, okay, I'm feeling a little bit frustrated right now. I'm working a lot on this project. It's not working. I'm feeling very tired. Like, I'm aware of this. What can I do? Well, maybe I can say, okay, I'm going to take a pause. I will go out for 5 minutes. I will put some music. I will think of something else. And that will allow me to change my mood and breathe, right? So it is really important and useful to practice different relaxation techniques, right? Whatever works for you. Some people do yoga, some people meditate, some people, I like dancing. So when I'm like, whew, this is a challenge. I put some music, I dance alone, and then, I continue. So whatever it works for you, maybe it's just going for a quick run or just a walk or leave where you are and find a different space. So you can say, okay, I'm going through an emotion that I want to manage. So it doesn't really get in the way of what I want to do. Okay. So being emotionally intelligent means recognizing your emotions. We are human beings. We all have emotions. It's not bad to have emotions, not at all. Right. It's just like we need to acknowledge them and say, okay, is this an emotion that is limiting my opportunities right now? Is this affecting what I'm doing? Is this something I can manage? Okay, yeah, let's breathe, let's do something different, and then go back so we don't have our emotions getting in the way. And so, as a leader, being emotionally intelligent is super important, right? Because you don't want someone who if you don't do something okay or the way they expect it, that is going to shout at you, that are going to say, oh, what you did is wrong. Like, that's not a behavior we want to have, right? So start being mindful about how you are recognizing your emotions, and be okay with the fact that we are all humans. We are going to feel things, but we don't necessarily need to act upon that, right? If I'm really angry right now, I don't need to scream to my mom, right? If she said something that I don't like, I'm not gonna, like I said, okay, Mirta, calm down. Let's do something else and then have this conversation. Okay, how does it sound? Does it sound useful? So in the future, you can start recognizing a little bit more about this. Okay. And so tip number 8, this is super important. This is like the key element that I want to share with all my coachees, all my mentees. When we start creating our professional path, sometimes we tend to make this like separation between personal life and professional life, right? As if these were two different things. When in reality, we are the people, I am the human being doing a professional experience. But first of all, I am a human being, right? First, I am Mirta, and then I'm the head of employability. Then I'm a coach. Then I do many things. So it is difficult to separate our personal life and like our professional as these were two different things that never touch. No, actually, they are very they go hand in hand, right? So when we think about our professional development and how we can create a leadership profile, it is super important that we have some idea, some clarity, some awareness about who we are. Okay? Because if I don't know who I am, if I don't know how I can make a contribution, then it's going to be hard for me to actually, right, find a job, find a profession that allows me to do something. So, one thing to start reflecting on is okay, so what do I have to offer? What can I bring into this world, right? And we all have different skills, talents, knowledge. right? So it is good for you to start reflecting on, okay, what do I know? What I can do? Okay, what am I interested in? What am I passionate about? Don't worry if you don't have a passion, because sometimes we all listen to this, follow your passion, and we may think, I'm not sure what my passion is, which is what happened a little bit to me, right? When I finished university, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I wasn't sure what my passion was, and I was a little bit lost. But one thing I discovered, and that is something we're going to touch on the next point, is like, try, explore. Okay, we're going to go more in depth in the next point. But yeah, so what is it important to you? What is it something that you value? Okay, perhaps you don't know yet what your passion is, but you do know what you value, what it is important to you, right? And reflect also what else you need to keep on learning, right? Of course, I don't know anything. I don't know everything. There are many things I still don't know that I still want to improve. So be aware of what you want to improve, and be okay with the fact that we are all always in a learning process. Okay. And when we talk about who we are, it's also important to reflect on, okay, what's my story, right? Okay, what I have to offer, what do I want to know, to share with other people, and what do I want other people to know me by, to associate me with? So this is when we talk about personal brand, right? When we say your name in a professional capacity, what are people going to associate with you? Okay, so this is very important. And if you know, we have 2 coaching calls during our program where you can, especially in the final coaching call, you can start reflecting a little bit more about this. So if you had already your midpoint call, probably not yet the final call. Okay, if you have your final call, you can start reflecting a little bit on this, and then you can discuss it with your coach to think how this is useful for you in the future, right? So we're getting closer to the end of our webinar today. Number 9, super important. Dare to go for more. Okay, we will have many different experiences in life. Sometimes we won't be super confident or sure about what we want to do, or we may fear, we may feel afraid, right? We said, I feel I'm not ready yet. I feel afraid. One thing that I've discovered, and this is not something I only say, many people have written about this, is like, chances are we will always be afraid about doing something new, about doing a challenge, about something that scares us. And chances are this feeling won't disappear. So the only option we have is to do this even with fear, right? Um, all the times I lived abroad and I went to study to a new university, I had to meet new people, I had to make new friends. And of course, I was afraid, right? Because I was like, oh, I'm in a new country. My language level is not so good. I'm not sure, will I be able to study in one of the best universities in another country? I was afraid, but I did not let my fears stop me. I said, okay, let's do it. Okay. So being able to do whatever it is that you want to do, even if you're afraid, that is super important. And here an interesting concept is the growth mindset, which is a concept we can say, this is a psychologist who came with this concept, a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. Growth mindset means you believe that you can improve and learn, which means I believe I can try, I can do better. So I am going to accept that sometimes I'm going to fail. Sometimes people will tell me, no, this is not for you. You didn't get the job. You didn't get the scholarship. We will all have all these moments. But if you have a growth mindset, you will say, it's okay. I'm learning. Okay. I'm not there yet, but eventually with time, I will get there. If you have a fixed mindset, That means that you believe that you are perhaps intelligent for one things, but not good at other things. So for instance, you said, okay, I won't try public speaking because I'm not good at public speaking. If you think that you are not good at public speaking, what will happen? You will not try, right? Because you don't want to be embarrassed. You don't want to ask other people to see you speaking in public and not doing it. Okay, so probably you said, no, I'm not good at that, so I won't do it. And you will limit yourself because basically you will never try and you will never improve. So identify when you have a fixed mindset, when you're saying to yourself, I'm not good at this, so I won't do it, or I will never be able to do it, and change it and say and think, well, perhaps if I give it a try, if I keep on learning, I can improve. Yeah, perhaps you won't be Messi playing football, but you can be better than what you are now, right? If that's something that you want to pursue. So be resilient. Resilience being this means this, like you had a bad experience and you said, okay, this is tough. I didn't have a good time. Oh, it was not good, but I'm learning and I'm still working on this. Okay, so remember to always be in this mindset because we are all going to have different struggles in life. The difference is what you do with that. Okay, do you let that struggle really affect you, or you say, okay, this was hard, but this is what I learned, and then keep on going? How does it sound, guys? Does this sound like something you can start applying even in your internship experience, where things you can say, oh, this is not as I expected, or university, this is not as I expected, but then you said, okay, can I learn from this experience? Okay. And so this leads me to my last tip, which is be ready for your next steps. Okay, you never know when the next opportunity may come, when or from whom, someone that can tell you, hey, I met you and I thought you were really motivated and I have this opportunity for you. Or, I know someone who knows what you're interested in. Why don't you share your CV with me? And if you don't have your CV updated, then it's going to be challenging, right? So update your CV, practice interviewing and sharing your story, who you are, what you want to achieve, what you have to offer, right? Keep your LinkedIn active and put in practice all these tips. So here you have a really nice tips on how to create a leadership profile. And remember, creating a leadership profile takes time, and the best moment to start doing it is now, okay? Within your internship experience, within your university, within your community, within the activities you already have. So do we have any questions or comments you want to share with me? What do you think? Do you think this is something that you can apply? Yeah, is this something that now you have many tools, many tips to go and say, okay, I can practice during my internship experience, right? I can start communicating more. I can start being proactive. I can start creating or improving my LinkedIn account. And yes, I will share the presentation, definitely. So you will receive all the presentation, and I hope you really start practicing. You have many great ideas to start reflecting on your leadership path. And if you want to stay in touch with me, you can add me on LinkedIn. We have been discussing LinkedIn, so you can add me there. I'm always very happy to connect with our interns. And remember that you have 2 coaching calls during your program. So if you have received the email to book your coaching call, please attend, because this is a really interesting call and useful experience. And if you want to watch our previous webinars, you can find them on our YouTube channel, but I will still send these presentations, so don't worry. So I hope you had a nice time. I hope this webinar was of use to you and it was interesting, and that you are walking away with really useful tips on how to create your leadership path. So I hope you all have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you next time for our next webinar, and definitely keep on discussing with you about all these very interesting topics. So see you next time and have an excellent day, okay?